What's going on, guys? Got a top 10 video for you here for the top 10 hardest bosses in Black Myth Wukong. Typically I do the Assassin's Creed stuff on my channel, but lately I've been playing this game, not really a game I've ever played before as far as the style of game. I know people consider it like a Souls type or at least a gateway to a Souls type game, and it's a challenging game, so navigating through this one was really fun for me with it being so different. There were plenty of times where, at least towards the beginning of the game, where I didn't think I was going to finish the game, so definitely rewarding considering the fact that I'm on New Game Plus now and I'm going for the Platinum Trophy. So without further ado, here are my top 10 hardest bosses in Black Myth Wukong. Getting right into it, coming in at number 10 on our list, we have the White-Clad Noble. Now, is the White-Clad Noble one of the 10 hardest bosses in this game? Probably not. I'm sure I could find someone else to take this 10 spot, but when you think about where in the game he is at, about 2 hours into Chapter 1, you have one spell, one transformation, not a lot of health, and not a lot to work with. So this fight is pretty difficult in my opinion, given all those. I was stuck on this boss for 2 to 3 days. I would say that the White-Clad Noble taught me how to play this game. With the tutorial for this game not being too much in detail on gameplay, you face this guy, you really have to learn how to use your spells, how to dodge, and when you finally do that, you find out there's a second phase to this fight. So definitely one that tests you pretty early on in the beginning of the game, and one that I've seen a lot of people struggle on just for those reasons. Out of respect for the White-Clad Noble, though, I'm going to give him 3 out of 5 Headless Monks. Coming in at number 9, we have the final boss fight for Chapter 3, and that is Yellowbrow. Yellowbrow is actually a 3-part boss fight, but thankfully there's actually checkpoints in between all 3 parts, so you get some time to figure out what's going on before this final encounter right here. As you can see, there's parts of the fight where he turns gold. You have to charge up your heavy attack and attack wisely, as he's going to throw a lot at you in the process. I actually had to use a life-saving pill to defeat Yellowbrow, so I guess one takeaway is that he taught me how to use some consumables, but all in all, he has a lot of health. There's some big attacks he has, as you can see right here. You have to stay away. But Chapter 3, not my favorite, actually my least favorite in the entire game, so that's how Yellowbrow gets this 9 spot. 2 out of 5 Headless Monks for the Yellowbrow. Moving right along to number 8 on our list, we have another final boss, this time for Chapter 4. It's the 100-Eyed Taoist Master. This one's not too bad at all, as you can actually see the arena for this boss fight is massive, so plenty of room to stay away from him during the fight, as he can be pretty aggressive. There's a cutscene that takes place prior to the first time you encounter him, where the sister queens from Chapter 4 actually start him off at about 80 to 85% health. So he does have a lot of health, but you get a little bit of a head start for this fight alone. There's a part in this fight towards the end, his last about 25% of health, where he will transform, turn the sky like golden or red, and you can actually utilize one of the 4 vessels from the game to completely eliminate this transformation of his, making the boss fight, at least that final stage, not too difficult at all. Probably died about 5 or 6 times to this 100-Eyed Taoist Master, therefore he ends up at number 8 on our list. We'll give him 3 out of 5 Headless Monks as well. At number 7 on our list, it's actually the first optional boss fight here in the top 10, but that's going to be the Yellow Long. Yellow Long takes place towards the end of Chapter 4. I actually had to go back from Chapter 5 to face him, as like I said, he's optional, so I was probably a little bit over-leveled even when I defeated him. With that being said, it still took about 3 or 4 tries, as he's got some pretty high-powered electric shock combos that'll take your health pretty far down if you're not careful, and the area for this boss fight isn't the largest, so you don't have a lot of room to hide from the Yellow Long. Just like any of the other bosses in the game, once you figure out his moveset, you can pretty much dodge anything he's going to throw at you and figure out when is the right time to attack. Also, the Red Tide's transformation, which I utilize throughout most of my gameplay, works pretty good against the Yellow Long, as some bosses react differently when you enter that transformation. Yellow Long is going to get 3 out of 5 Headless Monks from me. At number 6, we have the Emerald Armed Mantis. This guy sucks. Towards the very end of Chapter 6, kind of feel like you have everything figured out, can take care of any bosses that the game might throw at you, and then you run into this guy. The Emerald Armed Mantis probably has the quickest combos in this game, does not give you a second to breathe or attack. so you really have to utilize your spells, transformations, whatever it is. On top of that, the fight is broken up into thirds, and every single third, he gets harder, where he becomes more aggressive, his attacks are for more damage. There are plenty of hard boss fights in this game where you die, you learn a couple things, and you progress further as far as killing them is concerned. You get closer. The Emerald Armed Mantis, for me, is not one of those bosses. I did not enjoy facing him. I don't think he was necessary to be at this point in the game. And with all that being said, I'm going to give the Emerald Armed Mantis 0 out of 5 Headless Monks. Getting into our top 5 now here for the top 10 most difficult boss fights in Black Myth Wukong. It's another optional boss fight, which of course tend to be some of the more difficult fights in the game. It's the Golden-Eyed Beast. The Golden-Eyed Beast, another long fight, but this one fast-paced. And half the arena takes place in this lava-covered environment, while he can also hit you with fire damage. So you have to utilize your body cooling powder. He also has heavy attacks, as you can see. That'll take a good chunk of your health if you're not careful. So staying close to him, definitely a good strategy just to stay aggressive. But you gotta be careful when he goes in for this grab attack that he has that'll take well over half your health if you get grabbed by it. For me, there weren't many opportunities to strike the Golden-Eyed Beast during the fight, so it was pretty much dodge until I got my immobilize spell, cast it, and just do as much damage as possible. This was a very respectable encounter for me, however, so I'll give the Golden-Eyed Beast 4 out of 5 Headless Monks. And you can actually listen to the live reaction of me defeating Golden-Eyed Beast right here. Missed it? Oh no, I got him. Coming in at number 4 here is the final boss fight for the main story in the game. It's the Great Sage's Broken Shell. This fight, not easy by any means. You're actually facing someone who has almost every single ability as you. Whether it's Immobilize, whether it's Ring of Fire. He'll even immobilize you and steal your gourd if it's timed up properly for him when you're trying to heal. My strategy for this fight, using the fan vessel helped a lot. Using smash attack, just building up focus to use that smash attack, just to get the big chunks of his health down at once, was pretty much what worked for me. However, he can still decide at any time during a smash attack, he'll just step to the side and dodge it, and then you'll have to start all over. However, I do believe that this fight is a great ending to the game with the sun setting and the boat ride into the arena. It's a nice touch for a fantastic game that took me 50 to 60 hours to complete, so can't go wrong with how they decided to end the game. I'm going to give the Great Sage's Broken Shell 3 out of 5 Headless Monks here at the number 4 spot. Starting off our top 3 at the 3 spot is the boss for the Chapter 4 Secret World, the Scorpion Lord. And if the Emerald Armed Mantis is one of the more fast-paced bosses in this game, I'm going to say that the Scorpion Lord is by far the most aggressive, which I guess is because of the fact that he fights like a drunken scorpion. I mean, you throw Pluck of Many, for example, at him, he loses his mind. He'll charge at you with his claw, he'll throw his spike tail at you. That these attacks are pretty hard to avoid in my opinion, and they'll take well over half your damage. This fight's a blitz. I mean, it only took me 3 minutes to kill him. Of course, that's with over probably 10 different tries. Got lucky, landed a couple heavy attacks on him, which of course stun him. At least give you a chance to land some light attack combos on him to get his health down low. And just as any other boss is concerned, he gets way more aggressive as his health bar winds down. So you have to be careful. I had to utilize something like Cloud Step just to stay alive and land those final blows on him. I'm going to give the Scorpion Lord 1 Headless Monk out of 5, as there were times where he made me pretty aggravated. At number 2 on our list, we have the final boss for Chapter 2. It's the Yellow Wind Sage. I actually found this boss in his location at Chapter 2 prior to finishing the entire chapter, so I didn't realize he was the final boss at this time. Ran up to him for a couple of counters and thought, absolutely not. There was no chance of me defeating this guy at the point in the game that I was at. Kind of going hand in hand with the White Clad Noble, I think that this boss deserves the number 2 spot just because of it's still early in the game. You don't have a lot leveled up. You don't have a lot at your disposal. And he just has a massive health bar and has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. You get into the final half or quarter of the boss fight, and he has this wind tornado sequence that he'll throw at you, where upon looking online for strategies, as I had to because I couldn't defeat him, I learned about the Wind Tamer vessel, doing the secret world in Chapter 2, and making the boss fight a lot easier. But still, it took me at least 10 to 15, maybe even 20 tries to defeat the Yellow Wind Sage. With all that being said, Chapter 2, in my opinion, is one of the better chapters in the game, and I actually enjoyed this boss fight a lot. I think he was designed well, the world looks great, his attacks aren't too much to handle, and for me, there was a lot I could learn and continue on throughout this game from this boss fight. So with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and give the Yellow Wind Sage 5 out of 5 Headless Monks, as he was number 1 on my list until, well, I think you guys know. Couple honorable mentions here before we get to number 1 that just missed out on the top 10. We have Jubagia, another 2-part boss fight that takes place in this very thick mud, kind of makes it difficult to dodge, and towards the second half of the fight, that second phase, Jubagia actually transforms into a very aggressive bull type thing that has some pretty powerful attacks that are hard to avoid. Yin Tiger's another one that you hear a lot about online that a lot of people struggle with. I think you'll unlock Yin Tiger in Chapter 3, actually one of the blacksmiths in the game where you can upgrade your armor and swords at. I didn't face Yin Tiger until Chapter 5, so the fight, I can definitely tell, has its difficulties to it. I was definitely over-leveled when I faced the Yin Tiger. Lastly, for the honorable mentions, I put Kang Jin Long as it's the first boss fight in Chapter 3. It's a massive dragon on a huge frozen lake. The first 2 times I faced this boss, I didn't even get a single hit off because I really wasn't sure what I was supposed to be doing. The hitbox is obviously very awkward, and honestly the boss is hard for the unfortunate reason that the camera, when you lock on, is difficult to see, it's difficult to follow along with. So I think some people have shared that issue with Kang Jin Long at all, but I think regardless, it still ended up being a hard fight for those reasons. And last but not least, the hardest boss fight in my opinion in Black Myth Wukong. I tried really hard throughout the duration of my game to not let this boss fight be the hardest fight for me, as I heard a lot about Erlang through the course of my gameplay and of course reading stuff online. But Erlang the Sacred Divinity, the secret ending for the game, is by far the hardest boss fight in the game. I would describe this fight as very complicated. There are 4 different parts to the fight that Erlang has, so broken up into quarters, where he actually has a shield that has to get broken within all of these 4 quarters, on top of the dogs that you see here. But each start to the quarter has its own unique beginning, I guess. So for example, you finish the first quarter and he'll come down on you with a huge axe to start the second quarter of the fight. So for me, defeating Erlang, it was a lot of breaking the fight up into the quarters, figuring out how he's going to start each quarter of the fight, and choosing how to utilize whether it's my vessel, my transformation. Sometimes Immobilize doesn't even work on Erlang, so you really have to, as with all fights in this game, practice your dodge, strike to build up focus, use your heavy attack, and for this one it's more of a marathon. That's it for my top 10 here on the top 10 most difficult bosses in Black Myth Wukong. Let me know if you guys agreed, disagreed down in the comments below, or even if you feel like I left anyone off this list. We'll see you guys next time.